right, welcome back to another quarantine episode of Scions of the Southland. This is number 35. Well, I guess it's
Something
not the
like that.
35th quarantine. It's not the 35th quarantine episode, but it's like number 35. Um, I'm Akshay, as always, and joining me from the lovely campus of Georgia Tech, though barren and not with people right now, is Mr. Jake Grant. How is campus today?
That's going all right. As you know, but our listeners don't, I am currently out walking around campus because despite having been back for a couple weeks, I really haven't gotten over to campus since I started working. So we're gonna go, among other things, just see what things are looking like. So I don't know. So far, a little overgrown, but it's nice to be back.
And so, just for anyone who's listening, we're recording this on Saturday, May 30th. So, a couple of construction projects are in progress on campus. So, we just had the Zelnak Center finish up. There was video of that posted online. And then you and I, before we hit record, we were talking about there was some stuff going on at track, I think.
Yeah, they were doing some work. Oh, that worked. I'm inside O'Keefe right now, cutting through to Zelmac. So if you hear some cars in the background in a sec, that would be beautiful downtown connector. And I'm back outside. But yeah, no, we're going to check out the track, see if there's any pre-site work or surveying going on at baseball, hit up the student center and the library, I think.
Yeah, and I think baseball phase two construction is supposed to start this coming week. I think it starts
Okay.
Monday.
Oh, shoot, that's soon.
I don't know. I saw a tweet. I didn't read it that well. I'm not a good journalist.
Okay. Um, yeah, oh, shoot, the last time I was in this parking lot, I got sideswiped. That's fun. Um, but no, Zelnak doesn't look too different on the outside. I don't know. I think it's kind of nice that they're letting everything grow. They still wouldn't have the a lot of the flowers up if they were trimming it more regularly. I don't know. It's quiet, really quiet.
It's eerily peaceful, is how I've heard some people describe it.
Yeah, I don't know. There was not a lot of trees in full bloom, and the grass wasn't really back when we had to leave campus. So it's like I don't know. Like I guess I didn't really appreciate how like green and lush the campus was. I guess, or at least was taking it for granted. But I don't know. Looks good. I'm at Mewborn now. Not really anything
Ah,
going on. You should say something else so I don't keep rambling about trees. But
all right. Let's actually talk about what's happened over the last what has it been, three months, something like that, two
yeah,
months.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, as we all kind of know, there are no spring sports because coronavirus, but I mean, the Georgia Tech content machine has kind of still been rolling, especially during the month of May. Looking at the list of stuff that's happened to Georgia Tech sports during the month of May, we had, let's see, nine new recruits. So let's talk about them. So I think this is not organized by time of commitment. So we have quarterback Chaden Peary from California, tight end and wide receiver Leo Blackburn, who I think is from Westlake here in Georgia. Uh,
Yep.
Tight end Ben Postma, offensive lineman, offensive tackle Jakaya Leftwich, um, wide receiver James Blackstrain, defensive tackle Zeke Biggers, defensive end Noah Collins, and defensive end Joshua Robinson. And last but certainly not least, Irishman and punter David Shanahan. Notably, he was trained in the art of punting by our friends. Well, I mean, I guess college football's friends in Australia, Pro Kick. So, yeah, I mean, That's a 9 commits in what is effectively a recruiting dead period. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm pleased.
yeah, not terrible. I know that a lot of our eyes will probably turn right to the Westlake boys or the quarterback from California, but low key, I think we're gonna appreciate Shanahan the most. Just my gut feeling, because we kind of, not that we take Presley for granted, but if you're getting rid of it, you want to have the best dang guy on the planet to help you get rid of it. And I think, I don't know, not that I'm saying he's going to be the best guy on the planet, but relatively unproven, pretty unpolished, which means he has a pretty high ceiling. So I like that.
Hmm. And I think something that we have to note, I guess there's 2 points that I want to note. One, Pro Kick is, like I said, Pro Kick is well known in the States for turning out good, like very good punters at the college
Mm-hmm.
level. Um, like I think, especially in the Big Ten, if I remember correctly, you've seen a number of Aussie punters roll through. The thing with Shanahan is he's Irish. He's not actually Australian, so I mean, it, does it matter? But he still went through the same training. I'm sure he's still going to do your usual rugby style punt. So I think
Gaelic
it'll
football too.
be yeah, it'll be interesting. I it's weird to root for a punter's success because if the team is doing well, you might not see him a whole lot. So
Yeah,
it's weird. I don't really know
agreed.
what to say.
No, that's a fair kind of a fair way to put it. I'll note that I have arrived at the track, and the building that used to be like bathrooms and the press box or whatever appears knocked down, and all that's in its place is a freshly poured slab of concrete with a fence around it. So that's weird. Um,
Oh, Georgia Tech, never change. Random
hey man,
construction.
that building was the one of the prime things in the way of them turning the infield of this track into a uh, soccer and lacrosse field. So I'm not gonna
Okay,
turn
well,
my
maybe
nose
I
up
should
at that.
complain less.
I was
I
gonna say
will.
the odds of that happening still aren't great, but well, the building's gone. Uh,
Okay,
but no,
well,
as for Shanahan, I don't know, man. It seems like a pretty high upside play with not a lot of downside. So I don't know.
yeah. I think in recent years, Georgia Tech has really learned how to value punters.
Hmm.
And I think we've hit on a good run of punting talent recently, and it should be another one in that line. Rodwell was really good. Um, Presley Harvin punted a ball 81 times last season, which was like double his previous mark, and still averaged just about the same yardage per punt, which was very impressive. And
Yep.
then Shanahan falls right in line. So, you know,
Yeah.
I think especially early on, I think we're up to 21st, 30th, something like top 30 in the 2021 recruiting rankings. Obviously, still early, but I,
Yeah.
I think we're doing well, especially early on.
Yep. I would agree. Yeah. I think you can't really take those numbers with anything more than a grain of salt. I think Alabama's at like 45 last I checked or something like that.
Tennessee's at
Uh,
like 2.
I mean,
No, wait, UNC is at like 5. So really, the numbers don't. The points are made up, and the numbers don't matter.
yep. No, the other guy that I kind of had circled, I pay a little bit more attention to this now that I post all the articles to Facebook and whatnot on the blog site. But I think Peary is going to be an interesting complement to our quarterback room, if that's a good way to put it.
I think we've talked about this in the writers' room too. That right now, let's say you head into 2021, you have what, five quarterbacks in that room that each have a chance to start, and like a pretty legitimate chance to start. And I mean, I think, and we'll have a discussion later this year on who should actually be the starter and quarterback rotation, yada, 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 to start the season. But let's say all things equal, and we head into 2021 with a similar, with like the same quarterback room. You're looking at, okay, is Peary going to get a shot? Um, and based on his high school performance, uh, I would say I think he deserves at least a look.
I mean, the dude maybe from far away, so we can't say like, I don't know. When you see Jordan Yates, you're like, oh, he went to Milton. And most people know what a Milton is, but like with Peary, he's playing at the highest level in California. He's doing pretty darn good too. Like it's not just because it's not as familiar, I guess, doesn't mean it's not as good. Which is again, I don't think anybody was kind of prematurely tearing him down on those lines or anything, of course. But like it's very, it doesn't hit as close to home. I think when you
Hmm.
don't see somebody like tearing up the schools, or that kind of
I think
like
it's I
familiarity
think that's
aspect.
something yeah, and I think that's something we touched on in the writers' room. It's like, well, we need to, like, how do we evaluate, how do we compare the talent level of various regions, or of various athletic associations across each state? Like California has two, Texas has like two or three, um, and they have like multiple classifications within. And I think as the writers, most of us are from Georgia. We know and we understand the, like, Georgia and its neighboring states. We understand the talent level
Yeah.
at each, in each association, in each classification. And if someone says, hey, this guy is a four-star athlete from this school, we sort of understand who he's competing against, and what that, and if that rating is inflated or underrated.
Well, yeah,
When we're
we all
talking
have
about Cal,
well, yeah, because we all have the I went there. I know somebody who went there. So and so from that school played at XY college, and it all kind of ties back to it. But with
right, and
California,
I
it's kind
think
of a
it's a
question mark.
wash for us.
Yeah.
It and I think this is a parallel that I think we can draw is, when Jacob Eason, and I know this is a stretch talking about an old Georgia commit, but when Jacob Eason came from Washington and went to Athens, there was, I remember specifically, there was some talk about, why is he going to be able to withstand the pressure of the SEC? He didn't play, like, he was tearing up Washington State football, but it's not at, like, but if you looked at his stats, they were like pretty, in retrospect, they were pretty inflated. His touchdown numbers and yardage were pretty inflated. And then he comes to Athens. He does pretty mediocre, I would say, in that first season, and then he gets benched the second season, and then he transfers back to Washington and has an up and down couple of seasons there. So I think talent evaluation, when you're not sitting in that state, and especially at a time like right now when there's not really film or camp film that you can look at to, um, really get a better idea of what type of player they are, again, especially against other high level talent. It's difficult, but to sort of bring it back full circle, like you said, boots on the ground are saying Peary is playing at the highest level of California high school football. And in the two seasons that he's played, he has succeeded, and he's done
Yep.
very well.
I
And
would like to add one point, one caveat before we get back to Peary. It's kind of about football recruiting in general. I do not want this to be construed as us saying we need more intersectional football games. That should not be the case at the high school level. It's too expensive. There's not enough days in the schedule. It's too
It serves
logistically,
only ESPN's interest to have
yes.
interstate high school football games.
And arguably, I don't think they should be having these high school ones. Maybe you can have like Indiana cross over to Illinois kind of thing, stuff like that. Schools in Georgia playing schools in South Carolina. But I think this is where football recruiting really is a completely different beast than every other sport, because when you look at football, none of these kids play each other outside of within their own high school. And if you're a baseball star, you get on your travel team and you're playing against teams across the country. Softball's the same way. Basketball, AAU, same thing. Swimming,
I'll add
you
this
got your national
caveat to
meets
your
and stuff like
caveat.
that.
I'll add this caveat to your caveat. In the last like 5 to 6 years, you've had the development of 7-on-7 camps around the nation. So you have
Yeah,
these these regional camps where kids are like high level 4-star, 5-star talent are coming in. They're competing against other 4 and 5-star talent. But again, when you're talking about 7-on-7, because you're dropping 4 players from a roster, you're you're not looking at, let's say, your softer, well, not soft skills, but you're not looking at the more technical skills, right, that come with maybe being an offensive lineman, like be learning and executing on specific blocking schemes, you're looking more at raw athleticism. You're looking at potential when it comes to these camps, because each recruit is trying to show off and trying to turn on the burners on every other recruit. Um, and it's not like offensive line play has ever been highly valued and fashionable to analyze it to begin with. So
yeah. I mean, and I think we could talk for hours on the whole camp system, and I think that leads to talent inflation. But I also know next to nothing about recruiting, so that's not
yeah,
something
we
we
should
should
we
dive
should move
into
on.
too much.
I
Yeah.
think we've uh we've run out on our hourglass of knowledge.
You want to
Is
talk
that
softball, swimming, baseball recruiting? I got you on that. But other than that, not so much.
all right? Let's just one last note, since this is football related. Athletes, per Georgia Tech guidance, athletes will be allowed back on campus in mid-June. I think the exact date was the 15th. There's a number of restrictions in terms of who can be in the weight room, how many people can be in the weight room, um, coronavirus tests before they come back to campus. And then the most notable restriction is that no incoming freshmen will be allowed to come back. So you won't get the freshman recruits for basketball. You won't get the freshman recruits for volleyball, et cetera, and obviously football. But all of the older kids will be back on campus and working out in small groups starting in mid-June. And with luck, that should lead to a on-time start for football season. However, that looks. I think it's still unclear, and we talked about it in a mailbag last week. It's unclear how that's going to look at this time.
Yep. Yeah, I don't have a lot to add to that, but I have arrived where the police station used to be, at Hemp Hill and First, and that whole park thing that they're building is coming along interestingly. Nothing at baseball yet, but they're building some sort of big sidewalk across the back. Lots of piles of dirt. Honestly, most of it looks like piles of dirt, but there's some pipes. That's different, I guess. I don't know.
They
Look at
were,
Georgia
if I
Tech.
remember correctly, there is a water feature that's slated for part of that. It's
Hmm.
like a pond or something.
Oh, I bet you it's like those like rock things they have in other places that like is wet when there's rain, but other than that, it's just kind of a pile of rocks. That seems to
That's
be kind of Tech's vibe.
that's weird. I don't.
Yeah.
I I have no strong opinions on that, other than that's weird.
That is probably a fair way to act. I'm gonna keep moving on. It looks like they built like an artificial hill in the middle of it where the police station used to be. Because I don't know, there was never a big hill back there, was there?
There was not. There was one towards the front where the condemned fraternity house used to be.
Yeah, they haven't really
Um,
done anything over there yet. That's still a hill.
yeah, there was no hill towards the back of the parking lot. But also,
Yeah.
I haven't been to that part of campus in a long time, so
Well, chalk it up as news. We got a new hill, I guess.
let me add that to the notes when we're done recording here.
Georgia Tech acquires hill. All right, I'm heading up towards what I think is a more interesting part of progress on campus with the new student center buildings. But other than that, what have we got on the docket? We talked recruiting. We're in the middle of talking buildings.
It's
Okay.
interesting that you bring up the new student center buildings because the next item on our agenda that we wanted to get to was the final couple rounds of the Burdell's building bracket.
Yeah. I didn't really want to put it under a new story stream, so I just kept it under the building bracket. But it's people this year,
I
if you
feel,
haven't been tuning in.
you know, whenever I put these together, I should really do some better fact checking.
uh, I just know you do it because you love reading about the buildings. But no, our final four this year is interesting. Just like I drew it up, we have an 11 seed in it. Gosh, I think we put this together in what, an hour of sitting around before the last dance started a couple weeks
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, and I think we had some debates over the athletes. I think there was the
Yep.
last quarter of it where we were talking about, hey, should we throw Kuchar on there or should we throw Garcia Parra on there? There
Castleberry too.
Castleberry. I think there were some interesting debates, and I think the decision we came to with just putting those as play-in games and letting the democratic process work its course, I think ended up being for the best.
Yeah, and I mean, not that I am gonna say that I put Megatron on there as clickbait, but definitely
He
got some
did.
good, definitely got some good traffic. He made it to the Elite Eight, but lost to Bobby Jones. Um,
Okay, well that one's fair.
yeah, that should have
I'm not
happened.
super upset about that. That one seems like it's not a rigging. If
Oh no.
Megatron had won, I would have accused you of rigging the bracket.
Yeah, I would have felt dirty about that. I already felt bad that he lost to John Young, who, in timely news for today, considering we, launched a man into space today for the first
Two
time in
men.
two men, sorry, first time in 9 years from America. So that was pretty timely. But Young did lose to Calvin. On the other
Womp
sides, we
womp.
had more or less as expected. I mean, the things that get you fired up about the round of 32 don't quite get you as fired up when in the end, the people who kind of should be still alive still are, like,
Hmm.
I don't know. I was pretty baffled that Shelton lost as early as he did, and a couple of the baseball, basketball, non-rev types. But I don't know. We got Bobby Dodd out of it, and
All
I
right,
don't know
so
him.
one.
I was gonna say him or Heisman, perfectly good, perfectly good options. I'm not gonna besmirch the man the football stadium is named after for being in the Final Four, but
All right, so our finalists, just to review. So we have Dodd, we have Heisman. Who am I missing?
Dodd and Heisman were the Elite Eight in the coaches' side.
Okay, well, I need to do a better job of reading comprehension. Um,
Yeah. But then we had Jones, and it's Dodd
okay,
versus Jones in that half. And then we had on the other side Marion Britton coming out of the president's bracket. And then George Griffin.
It's
Yeah,
George Griffin, yeah.
which I mean, he
Yeah,
probably
I
he
mean,
probably deserves that one.
yeah, I'm not gonna. Britain, I think, is the weird one. But just because I would not have voted for Britain personally this far, because the only thing I know him for, besides, your writing stuff, is um the road, the drive, and then also the dining hall. So I'm at a loss. I think when I voted in this, I put Griffin, and I forgot what I did for the other one, but it's just for context. It's number 2 seed Dodd versus number 11 seed Jones
Hmm.
on I think that's the left side of the
Yeah.
bracket, and then on the right side of the bracket, it's one Griffin versus one Britain.
Yep.
So it's kind of like the 2006 George Mason went to the Final Four year, but with Georgia Tech personalities.
Yes. And here's where I will. Okay. Before I dive into this, because it's going to take me a minute, I am in the new student center like space. Those new buildings they're throwing up. The like not expedition hall, exposition hall, ballroom,
That's what it was.
meeting room kind of thing is still pretty blocked off, and that's over by Stamps and the IC. And then there's like a two-wing building next to it, in front on the north side of the parking deck, and both of those look to be pretty done. One of them looks nice, and the other could use a porch like its sibling, but that's that's small. That's Jake just being dumb. But yeah, that's all fenced off still. But what's not fenced off is the cafe thingy that they're building, kind of where those two big wide paths come together. The one that splits off to the MRDC, and the other that
Oh,
goes
that's
to
what
the
they're putting
ID.
there?
Yes, it's definitely
Like
a restaurant of some sort. I can tell
so
you that.
that's where the tug pit usually is.
Yes, right on. Yeah, we're swim club, like tailgates and that, like community garden and the tug pit
Yeah,
and
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah. So the two wing building is where all the RVs used to be, and the exposition hall is where that big flat parking lot, kind of a stoplight
Where
is,
the
used to
where
be.
the classic car
Yes,
expo was, or
yes,
usually is.
exactly. I
Yeah.
will. It's funny you mentioned tug, because kind of doubling back to closer to the IC where they used to dig it out with the backhoe and stuff. It's like a little depressed pit. It's definitely where all the drainage is going to flow, because there's water in it now and like
Oh my God. Did they
a
just
couple like
dig up
pipes.
the tug pit to use as drain?
I think the old tug pit is a drainage ditch. Whether or not they'll still have tug there, I don't know. Maybe
They
that would
probably
be.
won't.
I was going to say that would be a little bit sketch, because it looks like it's going to be full of standing water after a big rain, which is not ideal to have your students standing around in. But I don't know where the heck else they're going to put it. So
Well,
you got me
many
hanging.
moons ago, it allegedly was at Tech Square, or not Tech Square, Tech Green, many moons
Oh, there's
ago, and
there's
then
no way that that's going to
that would
happen.
not fly anymore.
No.
Um, Especially considering that whole drainage system got redone in 2016. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that probably doesn't fly anymore. So yeah, I mean, Greek Week, I guess, gets a pass this year and doesn't have to figure it out, but next year that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, no, the one building I can get up close to is absolutely going to be a cafe of some sort. I thought it was going to be the Chick-fil-A, but that's definitely a cappuccino machine in there. So coffee it
Chick-fil-A
is.
does coffee.
I mean, but do they have a cappuccino machine? No. Maybe
Yeah,
it's
I
Blue
mean,
Donkey.
Blue Donkey doesn't do cappuccinos though. All right, now we're just
Maybe,
now we're
I
just
don't know.
getting into technicalities of food places. That's
Yeah.
another entire podcast episode that I look forward to doing when we're bored again another weekend.
Yes.
All right,
What was I going to
let's
say? I really like this path though. It's pretty it's very wide, it's a little bit curvy. I don't know, could use a little more trees, but they planted them. They're just very small.
yeah, I think once we get closer to the fall, and even next fall, probably when everything is actually done, because I think the slated completion date is before fall 21, right?
Yep.
Um, so once we get towards those slated completion dates, I think everything will look a lot a lot more full.
Yes, I agree with that. Oh shoot, I'm headed over towards the old student center. It feels weird calling it that, but the old student center and that plaza in front of the first center where George Griffin. Oh frick, where is George Griffin? Uh
Uh-oh. We were just
oh.
praising him for being on the bracket, and now his statue has disappeared.
Yeah. So the the like plaza in front of the first center. You know how it has the like the cement with the ice cream cone used to be in the middle of, and then you kind of walk down a little bit, and
Yeah.
Griffin was on the left, and the stairs were on the right. Yeah, that is all a big sunken dirt pit right now. There's no
I
sign on the
assume he'll
first
be
center.
back. I assume they're probably going to move him somewhere along the path you were just walking on.
Dude, I will write such an angry column if that man doesn't come back. But I don't think
That
they're
would
gonna save
be
the.
in that would be very upsetting if they just removed the statue and didn't put it back.
Yeah, all right. I'm gonna go around this, and then we can keep trying to go up towards the library. But yeah, I will write an angry column if he doesn't come back. Man is a hero. Um, yeah, other other Jake propaganda.
Yeah, so
But
Jake is using this time to implicitly say that he's going to rig his bracket to have George Griffin win. So take that into consideration.
I mean, what can I say? It's the Chicago way.
Rigging elections. All right, before we should backpedal before we get into spicier territory on that one. I have jokes for days.
Well, we were in the
Um,
middle of something until I interrupted it with the construction thing.
it was
Um,
you were talking about the who you were going to vote
oh,
for the
Britain.
Final
Yeah,
Four.
I was gonna shill for Britain. I'll let you think of a segue while I
Okay,
shill.
you
So,
vamp.
so basically, longest serving tech president, yes, wrote the best first, whatever you want to call it, history of Georgia Tech, called the story of Georgia Tech. But he didn't just like talk about the history. He made that. So like he made all that stuff happen because in the middle of his tenure, not only did we get de-accredited because of the state government being a bunch of manipulators, I'll put it nicely, he saved us from financial ruin during the Great Depression and subsequent like the commerce getting moved, saved us from the Board of Regents trying to make us not exist, and I don't know, we won a football title. Like that'll round it out. Oh, we got Guggenheim too, which at the time was a very prestigious grant that gave us what is now the AE school. So he did some good work.
And it's important to mention that said Guggenheim building has not been renovated since Marlon Britton's time at Georgia Tech.
Nice. That was probably accurate too.
Oh, it's absolutely accurate. That building has not been renovated since the 50s. It looks like it too on the inside.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that one, bud.
Yeah. Okay. I honestly don't have anyone to shill for in the bracket, but I do have other stuff to shill for.
Go ahead.
I- including returning sports, both in the US and internationally, after a coronavirus-induced lockdown. So in the US at least, we're looking at the National Women's Soccer League being back in late June. The NHL released a plan to be back by July, or at least start training camps again by July. Both the NBA and MLS announced plans to restart their seasons in Orlando at Disney's Wide World of Sports, which is surprisingly massive enough to hold both of those competitions and not have intermingling, which is wild to me. And what am I missing? Oh, and given all of the announcements from the NCAA, and the various conferences, college football is just about on schedule. Obviously, all of these come with the caveat that most, if not all, of these sports will not have fans. Um, Probably. I think college football is the only one that's even questionable. Um, so there's that. That's on the US side. Internationally, German soccer, the Bundesliga, has been back for 3 weeks now, which has been great viewing, and we'll get into that in a bit. The English Premier League, which is the English Soccer League, will be back in 2 weeks on the 17th. Um, I think the La Liga, which is Spain's league, will be back this month, and also Italy's. So I think that rounds out. I think France hasn't ruled on theirs, but the other four should all be back by the end of June. So things are starting to open back up. Um, I know that opinions on whether that should not happen. There's a ton of stuff out there. I'll leave it to the audience to go read those takes, but we're starting to get back in the groove. It's starting to feel normal-ish in terms of sports viewership and sports availability on media again. Or at least it will
Yeah.
be by the middle part of the month.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it'll take a couple weeks to kind of spool up here, but I don't know. I'll take it.
Oh yeah, I'll take it. And the one really interesting thing, and the debate that I've seen across sports Twitter and really sports business Twitter has been, so the Bundesliga, on some of the broadcasts, they've been piping in crowd noise like the Falcons used to. It's
Mhm.
not in stadium, so the players can't hear it. The players and staff can't hear it, neither can the commentators. It's basically an audio engineer is sitting in broadcasting headquarters in Germany and pressing buttons on the world feed for a match and saying, "Hey, I want the virtual crowd to cheer here for the home team. I want them to jeer and whistle here. Um, they should be celebrating for a goal when that happens, et cetera, et cetera." I think this is something that we could see, and because I've seen the NFL talk about it, and I've seen some college football properties talk about it. This is something that we could see this season, this fall. And so, what are your thoughts on this piped in crowd noise coming across the feeds, or a TV feed, this fall when watching football or any other sport?
I don't. I don't want to say I love it because I don't. I will say that the emotion of the crowd does play into people's enjoyment of sports. I think it being part of a group, and it's a little bit lonely to watch silent soccer. Not that I'm a soccer fan in the first place too much, but it was weird trying to do that. Um, I don't know. I think one of the things I get most out of college football is the kind of je ne sais quoi of it, the marching bands, the cheerleaders, the rec, the people and the atmosphere and the whistle and all that stuff. But I don't know. I don't think that there's any way to have that in a safe way this year. So I mean, if this is what they're giving us, I'll take it. But I'm not exactly asking for it, you know?
Mhm. I will say, so I'd say I've watched most of the Bundesliga matches that have happened so far, and the having the crowd noise piped in has made the experience feel normal. And I think that's the whole point, right? It's not necessarily I mean, at a certain level, it's like, okay, we're trying to legitimize the broadcast because otherwise, if you don't have fans, these basically look like scrimmages. That's one side. On the other side, you need to actually have viewers so sponsors don't get upset, yada, yada, yada. But but from a viewing perspective, from a viewer perspective, from a fan perspective, it makes it seem normal. The problem is that when you juxtapose what sounds like a very intense and very loud and very intimate fan atmosphere with shots of an empty stadium, it breaks that immersion very badly.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and
I haven't really tuned into soccer since they started doing that though, so I guess I wouldn't be the right authority on that.
yeah, and I think it's an interesting experiment, and props to, I guess it's Sky Sports that owns the world feed for the Bundesliga, but I mean props to them for trying it out and testing it for the world, because this is, it seems like a viable solution for a from a viewing perspective to at least bring that normalcy back to the viewing experience. Um, I don't know how people are going to feel about it when college football time comes around. I think certain fan bases are very defensive about their attendance and the amount of noise that they can generate. I'm not going to point any fingers, but uh, it'll be interesting to see the reaction to that, and if broadcasters in the States can do as good of a job of matching those home atmospheres that um, that the Bundesliga has done in Germany, or that Sky Sports has done in Germany.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different for football from hockey and like soccer kind of thing. Because I feel like football crowds are a little bit more like, not that it's a more random sport, but there's just more different ways to react to or different things to react to, I guess, because you got your field goal, your big hit, your sack, your big play that
Penalty
isn't a
flag.
touchdown. Yeah, like not that soccer is just goal, foul, and like big play, generic big play kind of thing, or like good save or whatever. But I think it's just a little bit more nuanced than soccer or hockey kind of audio engineering would be, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, it would be interesting to see if audio engineers at, say, Fox Sports and ESPN have gone through the tape from last season that they have and picked out crowd reactions for all, let's say, 130 FBS teams for each of these individual play types. Like that's, I mean, it's a complicated feat of engineering from a television perspective to pick out that, like, the specific audio track from a specific game at this right intensity for the emotion that fans are supposed to be feeling in the stadium for a given play. Like it's a very complicated psychological thing and also a technological thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also, kind of hear some sirens and helicopters in the distance, so I'm going to head back to my apartment. I'm a little bit on edge after that. I will add, as I'm headed back, there are two massive tents set up next to the Kolk. I think for the Portman's like sculpture construction, but got me hanging on that one. And then the library looks about done. But that kind of wraps that one up. I don't know. I think we have enough bright people in America that if they're gonna try it, it might not be good the first week, but they're gonna freaking figure it out. You know, like if
Mm-hmm.
it's bad, they'll make adjustments necessary to make it better.
Yeah, I think it's something we just kind of gotta play by ear and out as we roll along.
Yeah. Um, Sorry, I'm a little bit distracted and walking, but I don't know. I think it'll all play out. The various leagues coming back will kind of give the later movers an opportunity to see how it works for the initial ones. You know, like
Hmm.
NCAA has all the time in the world, essentially, to adjust, especially if the NHL and NBA and NWSL are all out there trying to, you know, work out the kinks for them.
And I think it'll be especially interesting for the smaller leagues. Like MLS and NWSL, they rely so much on this is, I guess, from an economic perspective, they rely so much on gate receipts and that atmosphere as an advertising shtick and also as like I mean, like an economic engine. So not having home crowds, how does that affect competitiveness on the field? How does that affect them economically? I think we're already starting to see some of the outlay of that. And then also, how does that affect the viewing experience, especially when it comes to these NBA and MLS plans, where they're not playing in their home markets, they're playing in a gym or a soccer field in Orlando. Like there's no home field environment, there's no home field feel for the players whatsoever in those types of situations.
Yeah, I, I don't know. I think the league that probably has the toughest is the NWSL, just because they're small, playing a sport that is more fringe. I don't think that not that the NFL doesn't face the same challenges because they'll get lambasted if it goes poorly. But
Would
yeah,
be
I
really
don't know if that.
funny, but I can laugh at the NFL without consequence. I feel bad if I were to take. I mean, I don't want to laugh at NWSL. I think both of we want it to succeed.
Yeah, I would like if they succeeded, but I don't know. I wouldn't exactly call myself there. I don't know. I'm not like a rah rah fan either, but it's always good when sports leagues succeed. I guess. Wow, that was the most boring way I could have taken that, but that's where we're at. It's hot. I'm
It's
walking. I'm tired.
it's an 85-degree day in Atlanta. The humidity's turned up. It's basically summertime. I mean, I think that's as good a spot as any to call it for today. Any other stuff you want to mention before we sign off here?
Nope, that about takes care of it from stuff I got. If it means that we talk sooner again with another podcast and Tech's coming back, then I think that'll have been a success.
Yeah, and I think especially if we're able to get some summer practice in and at least get some football news to talk about, I think any little inkling to any little nibble to gnaw on and overanalyze will be good for the both of us.
Yep. Well, I'm getting back towards KA and it's very loud, so I think we should. I think we should call it there.
Yeah, all right. Everyone, have a good rest of your week. Have a good rest of your I don't know when we're going to be back. It might be a couple weeks, it might be another month, but stay safe and we'll catch up with y'all soon.
See you on the flip side.